Welcome back, everyone, to today's explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this material because today we're looking at one of the most karmically intense placements in all of classical Vedic astrology. We're talking about Saturn in the first house. Now, if you've been studying birth charts for a while, you already know that Saturn doesn't play around. And classical texts like the Brihat Parashrahora Shastra, they definitely don't treat this placement lightly. Historically, they viewed it as the ultimate cosmic forge for the soul. When Saturn sits right there in the ascendant, it brings this heavy, undeniable weight of wisdom to the native. So, let's jump right in. Here's our roadmap for today's session. First, we'll look at the weight of wisdom. Second, the timeline of maturation. Third, endurance in karmic lessons. And finally, we'll wrap up with advanced structural analysis. Okay, let's dive into part one, the weight of wisdom, and really understand the native's foundation. Right off the bat, let's establish our baseline definitions so we're all academically aligned before we start synthesizing specific predictions. It's actually really crucial to contrast this with modern interpretations. Modern pop astrology might superficially label a first-house Saturn as simply depressing or restrictive, but classical Bhrigu Nandinati views it entirely differently. It sees Saturn here as the ultimate architect of a soul's foundation. This creates a highly serious, disciplined, and intensely karmic personality. We're looking at a soul tasked with building rock-solid structure through diligence, a person who matures profoundly through struggle and real responsibility. So what does this actually look like? Energetically and physically, this external presentation is defined by a very quiet, thoughtful demeanor. They are emotionally controlled. Honestly, you'll rarely catch them being careless. And because they carry duties and responsibilities far beyond their actual age, they project a mature appearance and carry a naturally serious facial expression right from youth. A great real-life example is Abraham Lincoln. Think about him. He carried the immense weight of a fractured nation, always projecting that deep, weathered dependability and older-from-youth energy. With Saturn in the first, they are the undeniable anchor in the room. But here's where it gets fascinating. The duality of this placement is wild. Behind that incredibly strong, dependable exterior usually lies a hidden struggle with self-doubt, social anxiety, and a really deep fear of failure or criticism. When you've got a client sitting across from you with this placement looking utterly stoic, you've got to remember that internally, they're often wrestling with profound insecurities. As intermediate astrologers, it's absolutely vital we recognize that emotional strength on the outside definitely does not mean an absence of fear on the inside. All right, moving to section 2, the timeline of maturation. We're going from struggle to stable success. This is where we see Saturn's favorite mechanism at play across the entire chronological arc of the native's life. The principle of delayed gratification. Just look at the stark duality between their youth and maturity. Early on, Saturn in the ascendant heavily marks youth with delays, burdens, loneliness, and serious family pressure. It's a heavy start, no doubt about it. But that heaviness eventually transitions into stable progress that arrives specifically through patience, consistency, and hard work. It literally never arrives through luck. The immense struggles of childhood are exactly the tools used to forge the earned, stable success they see in maturity. Let's break down exactly how this delay impacts specific areas of life, particularly through Saturn's aspects. In relationships and marriage, their emotional expression is super cautious. This often introduces significant karmic lessons or even notable age differences between partners. But let's look mechanically at their career trajectory for a second. Why do major achievements arrive later, usually post-Saturn return? Well, mechanically, from the first house, Saturn casts its 10th aspect directly onto the 10th house of career. That specific structural influence is exactly why massive, long-term career success is initially delayed, but ultimately secured and locked in later in life once those karmic dues have been paid. Let's shift gears to section 3, endurance and karmic lessons, the deep inner work of Saturn. Now, what's really interesting about this is how Saturn grants immense physical and emotional endurance. When you're analyzing this placement, follow this simple step-by-step interpretive process. Step 1, assess their emotional resilience. Step 2, note their innate survival ability. And step 3, gauge their capacity for withstanding long periods of difficulty or pressure. Following this guide really helps you understand that Saturn doesn't just dole out burdens arbitrarily, right? It actively provides the absolute ironclad resilience required to carry them. Keep this core truth in mind. Saturn in the first house teaches patience, humility, emotional maturity, detachment, and inner strength through life experiences. This right here is the ultimate payoff. All those delays, all the early life loneliness, all that intense pressure, it's all designed by design to forge this profound inner strength and detachment. This is the beautiful, hard-won karmic lesson of the placement. Which brings us to our final section, advanced structural analysis, exploring those Brigu Nandi Nadi mechanics. A true intermediate reading means you have to synthesize specific structural modifiers because you simply can't read Saturn in a vacuum. Let's do a quick comparative analysis of 3 hypothetical birth charts to see this in action. Imagine chart A, where Saturn is exalted in Libra. This native becomes a highly fair, beautifully structured leader. Now, contrast that with chart B, where Saturn is debilitated in Aries. This clash of slow discipline and fiery impulse results in intense frustration and sudden setbacks. Finally, picture chart C, where Saturn is in the ascendant but aspected by a highly benefic Jupiter. That expansive aspect beautifully cushions the harsh delays, bringing wisdom much earlier in life. You see, you must always check the sign, the aspects, the Lagna Lord, and the 10th house. And of course, we also have to analyze the immense impact of conjunctions. Conjunctions fundamentally shift the outcome here. You've got to pay incredibly close attention to how planets like Mars or Rahu interact with Saturn in the first house. Mars creates this profound stop-and-go friction. It's literally like trying to drive a sports car with the parking brake fully engaged. Rahu, on the other hand, amplifies the native's worldly ambitions, creating this deep psychological obsession mixed with Saturn's inherent restrictions. A conjunction basically turns Saturn's slow burn into a highly complex internal pressure cooker. So, we've covered the weight of the native's persona, that tricky timeline of maturation, their inner endurance, and those crucial advanced structural chart modifiers. I want to leave you with a provocative question to chew on. How does recognizing this timeline of delayed success and profound karmic endurance fundamentally change your approach to chart interpretation? I challenge you to take these complex layers of maturity and structure and apply them to your future astrological readings. Keep practicing, keep synthesizing, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.